Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I'll bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico Easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
A manhunt underway in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Arlington area of Texas after a school shooting this morning. A bomb goes off in an apartment in Selma this a.m., hurting no one. And suddenly a new Gallup poll shows people like the GOP better than they like Democrats. What's that all about? Yes, it is I, Richard Dixon, Talk995, Talk995.com. Portions of today's show brought to you by Work Trucks downtown at 2324 3rd Avenue South, the place to go when you're looking for a top-quality pre-owned truck that's been through a 120-point inspection. Well taken care of. They don't sell junk. They never have. They're not going to start now. There's usually over 100 vehicles on the lot, all different shapes and sizes and kinds and makes and models, you know. You're going to find something you love at a price that you just can't beat. That's why Work Trucks is the Southeast's #1 pre-owned work truck dealer. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. Work Trucks, LLC.com. Downtown 2324 3rd Avenue South, where they are all about trucks. So, yeah, there was a school shooting. Arlington, Texas, appears to have started as just a dust-up, a Donnybrook, a rhubarb. Are there other old terms that I could use for fight? It was a couple of students. Well, we don't know if it was. We know one of them was a student. The other one may have been a teacher. We're not sure exactly about the other participant in this argument. But a gun was produced. 4 people were shot. 3 of them are in the hospital now, hopefully undergoing surgery. 1 was only minorly injured and will be refused any sort of treatment. Officers on the scene of the shooting fairly early. They're carrying out a methodical search, working with agents from the BATFE. That's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and Explosives. They threw in explosives later. Various on-the-ground media reports are giving us the latest and the greatest in terms of what is happening out there, and we'll keep you up to date on it. Hopefully this guy is brought to justice shortly, because he is on the run. He is on the run. It's pretty rare that you hear about something like this and the suspect gets away, but that is exactly what happened in this case. The other top story today that deserves some attention, an explosive device containing nails exploded this morning at a Selma apartment, that according to District Attorney Michael Jackson. The explosion occurred at 4 a.m. at Rangedale Apartments. No injuries were reported. The building, of course, sustained damage. Police say that they heard a blast at a station a mile from the apartments, and the fire marshal is investigating. No word on whether this thing was inside or outside. Was this something that was left at somebody's door? Was this something that was inside? Sometimes when you'll have somebody who's working on something of this nature, trying to put something like this together, it will blow up on them or blow up when they leave it alone for some period of time. Or so no real understanding of what's going on with this, what might have planted this bomb or who was in the process of making this bomb. We know virtually nothing about it except that a bomb went off at 4 o'clock this morning, and it was loaded with nails. Really the worst kind of, not that there's a good bomb, not that there's such a thing as, oh, he got hit by one of those good bombs, you know, the kind that didn't have the nails in it. But there's nothing really good about this particular bomb. It's designed to throw a lot of shrapnel and injure as many people as possible. We certainly saw that several years ago. You might remember, gosh, we're going back, is it almost 7 years now? 6 or 7 years? That the Boston Marathon. Remember those bombers? And they used pressure cookers, and one of them did not go off properly because it wasn't set right and it wasn't built right. The other one did go off properly and injured a lot of people, killed one, I believe, but injured a lot of people because it was laden with nails and spikes and nuts and bolts and the kind of, shrapnel essentially that can do the real damage. And that is exactly what the design was. And it appears as though at least some of that design was being used in this particular case. I don't know. We'll get details on it as soon as we can. A new Gallup poll, and Gallup, by the way, by no stretch of the imagination, a right-leaning organization. People complain about Rasmussen all the time, like they used to complain about Zogby. Well, they just always have that. The fact is, Rasmussen's poll numbers have been righter, is that a thing? Righter than anybody else's for quite some time now. So you can complain about them leaning right, but I think leaning correct is the way to put it, because they seem to get the right answer more often than not. So here's a Gallup poll. Americans by significant margins now view the Republican Party as better than the Democratic Party at protecting the nation from international threats, 54% to 39%. That has to have something to do with Afghanistan, don't you think? And at ensuring the nation remains prosperous, 50% to 41%. The 15 percentage point GOP advantage on security matters is its largest since 2015. The 9-point edge on prosperity, its largest since 2014. Last year, the GOP had a narrow advantage on international matters while the parties were essentially tied on economic matters. More of this change has come from declines in Americans perceiving the Democratic Party as better on these issues than from increases for the Republican Party. Yeah, that's about right. Look, Joe Biden has managed in a very short time to really screw over the Democratic Party. Well, I say it's him. It's not him. It's the progressives who are pushing him ever consistently left. We like to talk about the old, how the Democratic Party used to be versus how it is today. And the reality is, when you talk about people who are going to vote, there are far more old-school Democrats than there are new young progressives who are showing up at the voting booth. And now they're at war with each other. This is happening in Congress. You're seeing the Ilhan Omars and the AOCs of the world fighting with the Nancy Pelosi's and the more moderate, middle-of-the-road, flyover country Democrats that feel the need to represent their districts fairly. And so they can't pass a $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill because there are far too many Democrats against it. They can't pass a $1.5 trillion infrastructure bill because there are too many progressives who think it doesn't include enough stuff. We're talking about spending $5 trillion. And Democrats, there are some Democrats out there who are saying it's not enough. We need more. We need to get more on the agenda here. And they're not becoming more popular as a result of this, is my point. If their goal was, if they honestly believed, I'll tell you why people voted Trump into office. It's because Obama didn't go fast enough. And so, we need to obviously improve the size, the scope, and the speed with which our progressive programs get put into place. If that was their thought process, it was clearly flawed. Because the approval rating for most of this stuff, including things like Biden's spending plan, this $5 trillion spending plan, it's got like 36% support out there. And it's almost, it's entirely Democrats. There are 0 Republicans who are in support of this. So 36% of America's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Which means that there's, 54%, 64% that are like, no, that's a terrible idea. We don't want any of that. That's not what we voted for. And I think that really is the crux of the matter, is that these people, they took office saying, well, we have a mandate. No, you don't. You literally have a 50-50 split in the Senate. And I'm pretty sure that's only because you cheated in the 2 races in Georgia that got you, the 2 Democrat senators there in the special election. One of those is going to go bye-bye in the next election, I'm pretty sure. So you're split 50-50 in the Senate. You have a 4-seat advantage in the House. That is to say, a 4-seat swap from Democrat to Republican. You once again have an even layout in the House, or one up by Republicans. And so that's far from a mandate. I know you're looking at the Joe Biden votes and going, but he got more votes than any president. Yeah, his approval rating is in the toilet. He has got nobody. I mean, they're at rallies for him in Michigan chanting, "Let's go, Brandon," if you know what I mean. That's not a good sign. And yet these people continue to believe, well, this will turn around. We just need to move faster. We just need to spend more. We just need to implement the programs on a larger scale. And America's out here going, This is not what I voted for. I didn't go, I voted for Joe Biden because I didn't want Donald Trump. But I didn't think that we were going to be talking about $5 trillion in new spending. I didn't think we'd be talking about vaccine mandates, which 65% of American workers are against, that people could lose their job because they refuse to get vaccinated. I didn't think we'd be talking about getting out of Afghanistan and leaving Americans behind. I'll say it again. There are still Americans in Afghanistan. I will remind you of this every single day. The Biden administration did a piss-poor job of getting them out while we were there and has done virtually nothing in terms of getting them out once we left, despite their promises to the contrary. And now they, along with willing accomplices in the media, have moved on to other stories, strangely enough, none of which are good for Joe Biden. So, yeah, it's not really a shock that Gallup goes out, and they almost always oversample Democrats in these polls, and yet still come up with the reality that people now look at and believe that the GOP would be better at handling threats from abroad, international threats, and that the GOP is better at handling and making prosperity. Shouldn't really be a shock there, given the fact that just 3 years ago, we were under one of the greatest economies in the history of the planet. Not just the United States, the planet. We were living in a time when everybody who wanted a job had one. Some people had two, where wages were going up, real income was going up, real personal wealth was going up. It was fantastic. Now, COVID came along and cut the legs out from under that for sure, but I think we could have responded and returned a little bit better if we hadn't had this yahoo in charge for the past 9 months now, a guy who can't seem to get anything right. Well, I'll whine more about Joe Biden as we work our way through the day. I'm certainly interested in your thoughts on the subject. That's why we have the Birmingham Broker phone line, 545-9950, 844-455-9950. And we'll also get this show up and lumbering under its own weight with a big stupid question of the day in mere moments, so stick around. Underrated Eagles song here. Played a lot on rock radio. Don't think it was ever released as a single, but a great tune. I love this one. I love Old 55. You know, there's some of that early Eagles stuff that never really got the, didn't get worn out like Witchy Woman, you know, or Desperado. Desperado's still a great song, probably my favorite Eagles song of all time. But that song right there, James Dean, great piece of work. Glenn Fry, the driving force behind it. It is 12:18. I am Richard Dixon. This is Talk 99.5 and Talk995.com, and we're going to have some rain a little bit later. It's going to be apparently, we've moved into the slight risk for severe weather, which is actually a little bit above where we were before. So if it is raining, if it is pouring, and you want to go shoot your firearms, where you do that, huh? Well, the answer is Sentinel Firearms and sentinelfirearms.us. A good place to go to find out more about, their shooting lanes, their classes, their accessories, their gunsmithing, the firearms they have for sale, the knowledgeable staff who are friendly and helpful in so many ways. Sentinel Firearms, sentinelfirearms.us, 592-3004, 906 North 40th Street. These guys are the ones I trust. They're the ones that I let mess with Walther PPX. I've got one. Bought it there. Fits me perfectly. They're the ones who talked me out of what I wanted to buy and talked me into this, and boy, am I glad they did, even though it was less expensive than the one I was actually looking at. I know, right? That's Sentinel Firearms, sentinelfirearms.us, 906 North 40th Street. They are the proud sponsor of
The Big Stupid Question of the Day.
All right, here it is. In October, we tend to do all scary movie questions when it comes to movie questions, so about once a week you'll get one of these. But I'm also going to have an aside, and we'll get to that in a minute. Here's the top dog. What movie that scared you as a kid still scares you as an adult. What movie that scared you as a kid still scares you as an adult. Now, some of it has to do with what you were allowed to watch as a kid. I mean, if you were a little kid and your parents let you watch The Omen or The Exorcist, well, then, yeah, it's understandable that you'd still be scared by it today. But a lot of times kids aren't allowed to watch those movies. They're only allowed to watch movies that are, like, less frightening. And yet, you find later in life that you're still sort of freaked out by some of those movies that freaked you out when you were a child. Poltergeist. I didn't see that when I was a kid. I was older when it first came out. But that seems to be a pretty popular answer in terms of parents allowed their kids to watch that. They didn't really think it was that bad. And then later, the child is having nightmares because there was they have a clown at the end of the bed. Whatever. Remember Poltergeist with the clown? Oh, my God. My kid, I allowed my kid to watch a lot of scary movies, but not some of the worst ones. But when she was very little, we were watching The Mummy, the Brendan Fraser version of The Mummy, And I didn't really think much of it for her. Like, it wasn't a big deal because it was an entertaining movie and really more of an action movie than a horror movie. Oh, I was wrong. She's still freaked out by that movie to this day. She is still freaked out by that movie to this day. She'll watch it, but she'll be freaked out by it. So 545-9950, 844-455-9950.
Now, this big stupid question of the day is like right up my alley, Richard.
Really?
Yeah. Because here's the thing. I love watching scary movies. I don't really get scared because I'm like that guy to be like, how dumb are you to run in the woods?
Right.
Or why are you dropping the gun? Like, if you shoot the person, why are you dropping it? Obviously, you saw him get hit by a car, stabbed in the heart, got shot 15 times, got harpooned, got blown
and he's
up
still
by
coming.
He's still coming.
He's still coming after you.
You might as well just say, you know what? All right, you got me, bro.
Just lay down. Just lay down and die because it's over for you.
Right.
You fumbled with your car keys. Why didn't you have your car keys in your hand when you got to the door, huh?
Exactly.
What were you thinking?
And why are you running upstairs? Like, you're trapping yourself.
Yes. Yep.
But when I was a kid, I got scared from the very first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, yeah.
And
Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, that freaked me out. I was like, but see, here's the thing. I was 5 years old, okay?
Sure.
I probably shouldn't have been watching that at 5 years old.
No.
Especially when you have a vivid imagination as a kid and Freddy Krueger comes at you in your dreams. I did not want to go to sleep.
No, I bet you didn't. You didn't sleep for 3 years. It was 8 before you got a good night's sleep.
No, it was 40 when I was good.
And the funny thing is, if you watch that movie now, it's almost cartoonish.
Yes, yes.
But it was terrifying. I think to a youngster. I was like 5. You could have been 10, 12, 14, and probably been just scared witless by that film.
Yes. I was petrified. And I was, and what really got me, it wasn't really Freddy Krueger himself, but it was him. But it wasn't the whole dream part. It was the part because in one of the scenes, he's walking down the alley and he has like gigantic arms and he's scraping both sides of the garage. Well, guess what I had in my backyard at the time in the middle of St. Louis. Now, I wasn't scared of the gunshots because, I was born in the 80s in St. Louis. So that didn't scare me. It was the whole fact that there was an alley behind me. And I'm like, is Freddy Krueger going to come and like, I got to run from this guy, so. Yeah.
It's going to be tough to make a run from Freddy because he can catch up with you. All you have to do is doze off and he can catch up with you,
See?
So unfair.
That's how I beat him. Don't go to sleep.
Don't go to sleep. That's the answer. I did honestly think, out of all the scary kind of movies that made the rounds at that time, you had Michael Myers, you had Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, and Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I kind of felt like Nightmare was the most realistic in that anything can happen to you in your dreams, and then you just wake up dead, right? And people go, well, we don't know what happened, but he died in his sleep. That seemed like the most likely scenario to me. By the way, they did a remake of that in the 2000s that was not terrible. Jackie Earle Haley in the role of Freddy Krueger, and it was actually pretty good. It did better than the original, even adjusted for inflation, but not good enough to merit a sequel, which I wish it had, because I would have liked to have seen Nightmare on Elm Street 2 there. Okay, how about this? It's first news time. And then we'll come back. I do have kind of a second, an offshoot question, has nothing to do with this one. We can get into that a little bit. We've got news of the day. It's all happening. Talk 99.5.
I got the money in my pocket. I got the cookies in my hand. I got myself a couple of tickets.
Your first stop would be to AnthonyCoJewelers.com. AnthonyCoJewelers.com on the World Wide Web. It's where you go to find out more about Anthony and Company Jewelers at 2080 Valleydale Road next to Ragtime Cafe, the place that has the greatest selection at the lowest guaranteed price. And that is really what you want to do, is get the greatest selection or something that is custom designed specifically for your significant other. Whether that be a ring or a pendant, a bracelet, a necklace, it doesn't matter. They can make it happen for you on all fronts with whatever kind of precious stone or precious metal you are looking for. They have it all right there, and their know-how, well, they've been at it for better than 50 years, so yeah, they do know what they're doing. Sure, shop around. Absolutely. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't ever go anywhere else, but I am telling you shouldn't buy anything. Don't even put money down on anything until you've been to Anthony and Company Jewelers. 2080 Valleydale Road, next to Ragtime Cafe. Online at AnthonyCoJewelers.com. Let's go to line one and kick this shindig off on the Birmingham Broker phone line. Roger is in Hoover. Roger, you're on Talk 99.5. What's on your mind, man?
I got an answer, but I just always thought it was funny on Poltergeist. Everything was totally okay until they started smoking the devil's lettuce.
As soon as they put the weed in their mouths and lit a match to it, that was it. Things went right off the rails.
And the answer I have is it's the last horror movie I've ever seen because it scared me so bad was the Blair Witch Project.
Really? That you found that scary? Okay.
It was just freaky, and it just made me feel weird. I don't know. It did freak me out. And that is
there's two kinds of people. I love that movie, by the way. I love that movie. I really do.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I know many people who are just like, that's stupid. Okay, well, Roger and I are in one camp. You guys are in the other camp. That's fine. It's okay. Had a big argument about it one day on the show. Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
The sequel wasn't that good, and then the third one was, I still can't figure out why they made the third one. I guess as the little brother of one of the original filmmakers supposedly set off, and then, of course, the same thing happened, and on down the road it went. Line 2 has got Brett on a cell phone. Brett, you're on Talk 99.5. What's up?
Hey, Richard. Hey, big stupid question, Amityville Horror. And,
yeah, that's weird, man. I think when that movie came out, they were still selling it as based on a true story. And it wasn't until later that the people who wrote the book came out and went like, yeah, no, it's full of crap. We made it all up.
Well, whatever sells, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, my question is, if Trump hadn't done the warp speed thing with this vaccine, and we would have just let nature take its course, do it like we normally do, like 7 years to get approval and stuff, then if we would have been dying like flies by then people would probably take the vaccine. But since we rushed it, I think we're having a blowback. And would we have been better off just letting it take its course instead of doing the warp speed thing?
Well, I think a lot more people would have died, although we were doing a better job of protecting older folks. But certainly going warp speed created some, I think, skepticism among a group of people. I find it interesting, by the way, how the skepticism changed from day to day. I mean, at first it was Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Well, I don't know if I want to do anything with the vaccine that's pushed by this administration. Then later it's like, everyone has to get the vaccine. What's wrong with you people? Even Donald Trump said it was good. I'm a crazy person. I actually did follow the science and what research I was able to do. I came to the conclusion that this vaccine would be fine for me, so I went and got it. Everybody has to make up their own mind. I don't know if we could have gone 7 years, to be honest with you. Well, thank you, Brett. I appreciate the call. Let's quickly move on. Jonathan is in Shelby County. Jonathan, you're on Talk 99.5. What's up?
Big stupid question of the day, that would be the Wax House. That movie freaks me out.
The Whack House? I don't think I've seen it.
Wax House.
Oh, the wax.
Or
Oh, like
Wax.
House of Wax. You do see the one with Paris Hilton? Is that the one that freaked you out?
Yeah.
Ah,
It
gotcha.
was the older one. I watched it when I was like maybe 10.
Okay,
And
so
when
wait, the
guy
older
came
one,
under-
the really old
guy
one,
came under the-
Vincent Price, right? Remember Vincent Price? No?
I think so. When he came up under the floorboard and he flipped that girl's Achilles tendon.
No, that was the remake that you're talking about.
Remake.
Yeah, that was the remake with Paris Hilton that took place in the 2000s. I want to say it was like 2000, maybe 1998, 2002, something like that. I don't remember exactly.
And then yesterday I had a chance to eat at one of your sponsors, Mr. P's Deli.
Oh, yeah.
And I can honestly say that it was very delicious.
That is a fine sandwich they make over there, and I love the fact that there's no frou-frou lettuce. It's meat, cheese, and maybe some sauce if you ask for it. You got to give them props for that. That's a manly sandwich, Jonathan. A manly sandwich. Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. The original House of Wax, by the way, was in 3D. It starred Janet Jones, who I love. She played in the Addams Family. She was the wife, Morticia. She played Morticia. She absolutely beautiful woman. Vincent Price was the bad guy. He was a dude who was stealing bodies and turning them into wax figures, which is creepy enough. And then in a very early, probably not his first, but extremely early non-speaking film role, Charles Bronson shows up, which is pretty cool. If you get the chance to see it, it's still a scary as hell, freaky as hell movie. I remember seeing it when I was a kid and just being creeped out by it for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to tell you what they are. You'll just have to go see the movie. Tom is in Pell City. Tom, you're on Talk 99.5. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got a prescription for everybody that can take something for all this mess and chaos going on. It's called Muckamal, but add an F in place at the end.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I got you.
And as far as the stupid question goes, how about Lost Boys? It scared me as a kid. I still watch it now. I get freaked out when I see them when they show them flying, the vampires and everything.
Yeah.
Man, that still freaks me out.
That's one of those movies that's got the split personality, man, because there are parts of it that are scary as hell, and they're supposed to be.
Yep.
And then there are parts of it that are just funny and jokey, and you're like, am I supposed to be laughing at this movie, or am I supposed to be horrified by this movie? I can't figure it out.
Yeah, when Kiefer Sutherland turns into the vampire, I'm like, holy cow. Hello.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic stuff. I love it. Thank you for the call, sir.
Right,
have a great day. 12:40 is our time. Talk 99.5, talk995.com, 545-9950. That's the Birmingham Broker phone line. Still no word on how that manhunt is going in Texas. I do not have any further details on what have they managed to track him down? Not so far. Not as near as I can tell as I'm looking at all the breaking news that I have on my feed. And again, we'll tell you a little bit about what the story is once we know more about this explosion that took place in an apartment in Selma at 4 o'clock this morning. I find that very strange. Right now, we'll take a quick break. Come back. Your calls are welcome. Stick around. Yeah, the weather is changing, shifting. We got some thunderstorms coming later this evening, possibly severe ones into tomorrow morning. That's okay. Slight chance of, tornadic activity. It's tiny. If something happens, of course, you can always tune to Talk 99.5 and expect to hear what's going on there. But, of course, you get all that rain, you get all that moisture, you get that wind blowing, and the temperature drops, and what happens? The insects all want to come inside. They are all like, look, shelter, run! And what they need is to run across a barrier that will keep them from coming into your home. That barrier can be laid down by Mr. Bugs. 40 years in the business, Mr. Bugs has been treating homes and making sure that insects that are on the outside stay on the outside and insects that are on the inside die horrible deaths, because that's what it's all about. Now, Their pricing is not significantly different than others. Their service, however, is significantly better, okay? So when you start talking about having techs that know what they're doing because they undergo continuing education, that's a Mr. Bugs thing. Getting the same tech every time, that's a Mr. Bugs thing. Whether you do it once a month, once every 2 months, once every 3 months, and that's an option. You can split it out however you like. Mr. Bugs is going to send the same person every single time with the know-how, the intelligence, and then they don't have to relearn your home every time it needs to be treated, which is awesome. Mr. Bugs, MRBUGGS.com, MrBugs.com on the World Wide Web, or call them at 900-3433, statewide 844-MRBUGGS. Okay? Let's talk to Bob in Deutschland über alles. Bob, you're on Talk 99.5. What's on your mind, man?
Yes, sir, Richard. I'll give my answer to the big stupid question. I want to ask you a question after that, buddy, and just hear you all while I get off the phone. The big stupid question, I'd say whatever happened to Baby Jane.
Oh, that is a creepy movie. I mean, that thing yeah.
Yes, sir, buddy. So, Richard, I want to ask, what your comments about this Colonel Vindman that protested against Trump, and they praised him to hell, but this dear Marine that's up for court-martial after all his genuine service and probably saw 100% more than that Vindman ever could think of is facing his court-martial,
Yeah, it's a terrible thing. Of course, he did step outside of the Uniform Code of Military behavior, so that's a problem. You don't criticize your superior officers, especially not in uniform and not especially while you are, on duty. And you know that because you are in the Air Force or have been. But yeah, look, Vindman is a piece of human trash, in my opinion, and has been for a long time. He played the political game. He did what he had to do. He kissed the right butts to get into the position. And then later, he was the one who actually drummed up these ridiculous impeachment charges against Trump on the issue of the phone call to Ukraine. He was the one who actually passed the information to the guy that they were referring to as the whistleblower, but no one was allowed to name. So Vindman was there testifying, lying under oath, by the way, and claiming he didn't know who the whistleblower was. That also flies in the face of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and he should have been drummed out of the service right then and there, but he's on the right side of the political game, Bob. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it, and I do hate to hear about that colonel spending time in the brig. He certainly should never have been imprisoned for his comments. Court-martial, sure. Drummed out of the service? Absolutely. He knew what he was getting into. But putting him in the brig? Come on, man. That's not a part of any of this. Let's chat with our friend Michael Weber on the Birmingham Broker Hotline as we work our way towards some severe weather this evening, Michael. We were talking about water in the basement last time we chatted. How about water coming through the roof? Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah. We see that happen a lot, too. And a roof, I don't know if you've priced a roof lately, but they're not cheap.
They ain't cheap.
Your insurance company hopefully is covering that roof if it's had some wind or hail damage, but if it's just old, it's on you, and you got to figure out how to pay for that. So if you're going to pay for it, how are you going to do it? You're going to get cash equity out of the house.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the rates continue to remain at I would say below reasonable level at this point, probably the longest sustained low mortgage rates that you guys have seen. You've been at this for 21 years. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, I can't imagine that we ever will again. That's hyperbole, obviously, because we've been saying that for 10 years, but it has been crazy, and we're definitely off the bottom. The lowest 30-year fixed rate that I've locked in my career in 19 years, me personally, and in the company's 22 years, was like 2.25% on 30 and 1 7/8 on 15.
Good heavens.
So that was like a flash, a moment in time. The lowest, what I would call the market rate that you could get for some period of time, was probably 2.5%, and we're at about 3.8%. But I bought my first house at 7.5%, and rates were on their way down. So we lose sight of that because they've been this low for this long.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I tell people, you're crazy if you prepay your mortgage right now. It just doesn't make sense. You'll get such a better rate of return in any other investment vehicle. Take the 30-year, get you a 3, 3.125, 3.25 rate, make the minimum payment, and put every dollar you can in the markets or whatever other investment vehicles you love.
You will turn a profit. There is zero question in my mind. You get in touch with Weber Mortgage by calling them at 270-5550. That's 270-5550, or online, 1B, webermortgage.com. And MLS number 219938. Thank you, Michael. We'll do it again tomorrow, man.
Stay safe, brother.
Take care. Yeah, it is going to be a bit rainy and stormy out there, so everyone's got to stay safe. EC is in Hueytown with thoughts on this Texas shooting, 4 shot, 4 injured. So far, no deaths that we know of, but 3 people undergoing surgery, 1 that was injured so slightly they just refused treatment. What are your thoughts on the matter, EC?
My thoughts on the matter was I watched the police chief and some other individuals give a briefing about it, and they stated they were going to put suspect's name and description of what he's driving and everything for the press to, release it to the press, or they could use public support to help locate this guy. Well, Fox News immediately put his picture up there and his license plate and description of the car. So I flip around to CNN and the rest of them. They name the guy, but they won't show his picture or his license plate. And I find it kind of strange, in my opinion, that they wouldn't do something like that to help the public, locate this guy. And I want
track this dude down, yeah. I think it's interesting that CNN... Probably, yeah. I mean, there's a school of thought that says you shouldn't give out the color of a suspect's skin. Well, that would be a big help in finding him, Well, if I'm looking for a black guy and he's Chinese, well, that's just idiotic, If I'm looking for a Chinese guy and he's white, boy, how dumb am I? If I'm looking for a white guy and he's black, well, then we're never going to find him, It's all part of the descriptor. You may as well leave out hair color and height while you're at it. That, of course, is insane. But CNN's ratings are so low that in the last month, they only topped 1 million viewers twice in the entire month. I mean, by comparison, Fox hasn't been below 1 million viewers twice in the past 6 months. So I'm not really that concerned about CNN. Nobody's watching is my point. So it doesn't really matter.
Some of the affiliates, NBC, I went to YouTube, and they were showing a live feed, and they're saying, I wonder how the gun got in there, blah, blah, blah. But they wouldn't show his picture on there either. And the police were asking for public help to locate this guy, because he's dangerous and armed.
Anyway, those cops are bad. They probably just want to find him so they can shoot him. That's how it works, EC. Because those cops, they're just terrible people. I kid, of course, but there are people out there with that school of thought that if you're a police officer, you have to be a bad person. I find it all very disturbing. And perhaps that view is shared by the folks at NBC. I don't know. I'll take more of your calls when we return. We'll talk about Joe Biden's failed mission to Michigan yesterday. It was nothing short of a disaster. And a wide variety of other topics, including some more COVID news that you may or may not want to hear. I'm just the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger, okay?